And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power! 1, 2, 3, yeah! I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the good. Yes, I will. Yeah. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me. I can start again.
Live from historic Lamert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour conversation with Brown University Africana Studies and History professor Keisha Blaine about her new text, Without Fear, Black Women and the Making of Human Rights. The book champions overlooked generations of Black women who have advanced the cause of human rights at home and abroad. And I look forward to that dialogue today in hour two. In our third hour two conversations, up first, we'll talk to former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson about the American Bar Association Task Force he is leading, which has just issued a new report on how to protect American democracy. I'd love to hear that. In a moment like this, how do we protect this fragile experiment in American democracy? We'll talk to Jay Johnson about that on the top side of hour two. On the B side of hour three, I should say. Jay Johnson, top side of hour three. Slow down, Tavis. On the B side of hour three, how do you turn the trauma of empty nesting into the joy of re-nesting? Actress and author Tim Locke addresses that in her new book, Someday Now, a memoir of family reclaiming possibility and one Sicilian summer. But in this first hour today, the Washington Post fired me, but my voice will not be silenced. Indeed, it will not. That was the title of her provocative column. And I'm pleased to welcome to this program in just a moment the award-winning former Washington Post columnist Karen Atia. Delighted to have her on for the full hour. As you likely know, Donald Trump has just wrapped his speech at the UN. It's that time of the year, September. The General Assembly is in session. So all these world leaders get their turn at the mic, and another embarrassment for America, if you ask me, by our president. Take a listen.
I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war.
So we invite you into our house to give a speech, and you start out by insulting us and telling us that we have no worth, we have no value, but we have great potential. All right, that's pretty much how you started. So leave that where it is for the moment. Of course, he had more to say. Take a listen.
As everyone knows, I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done have to get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. Instead of giving to Hamas and giving so much, because they've taken so much, they have taken so much. This could have been solved so long ago. But instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now. Just release the hostages now.
Just a taste of what President Donald Trump had to say today in his speech at the UN General Assembly. Just getting started in this hour with Karen Atia. As I mentioned, her piece that we all read was called "The Washington Post Fired Me, but my voice will not be silenced." Of course, that firing had to do with the Charlie Kirk situation. So we'll get to that, trust and believe, as we move through this hour. But I also know, being a fan of her work, that some years ago, I think around 2015, 2016, Karen became the founding editor of the Washington Post Global Opinions section, where she, of course, commissioned commentary for some of the world's most influential thinkers and dissidents, becoming a columnist there in 2021. But she founded the Washington Post Global Opinions section. I wonder what the Globe is saying today about the speech of Donald Trump. So we'll start there and move forward. You're listening to Karen Atia on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
With Robinhood, not only can you trade individual stocks and ETFs, you can also seamlessly buy and sell crypto at low costs. Trade all in one place. Get started now on Robinhood. Trading crypto involves significant risk. Crypto trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Crypto LLC. Robinhood Crypto is licensed to engage in virtual currency business activity by the New York State Department of Financial Services. Crypto held through Robinhood Crypto is not FDIC insured or SIPC protected. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities trading is offered through an account with Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. We've all had that epic rideshare experience. Halfway through the trip, you know their heartbreak, their career path, and they know your aspirations to go find yourself in Portugal. It's human. We're all looking for connection, for someone to listen. But sometimes the people we spill our hearts to aren't exactly equipped to help us through it. With over a decade of data-backed experience from helping millions of people, BetterHelp matches you with a therapist based on your needs and goals. No asking for recommendations or endless scrolling through listings. Simply answer a few questions online and you'll be matched with a therapist, often in as little as 48 hours. Join over 5 million people worldwide who've trusted BetterHelp for their mental health and well-being. Get a therapist who gets you. Visit betterhelp.com/ABC radio to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/ABC radio.
He's a paradigm pioneer and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Karen Atia, award-winning former Washington Post columnist. Delighted to have you on this program. Been anxious to get to this conversation. Karen, how are you?
Hey, Tavis. I'm, hanging in there. I'm doing okay.
No.
How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing okay, and I'm thrilled to be in conversation with you, and I know you are doing better than okay, but we'll get to that, I promise, in this hour. Let me just start. You have not seen the full text of his speech, and for that matter, neither have I. Rushing to get on the air today, but we get some sense of what he had to say. We know who Donald Trump is, and again, as the one who founded that global section at the Washington Post, what's your sense of the way that he has, in fact, shown up on the world stage, the way in which we are regarded, or perhaps not so regarded in this peculiar global moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even during his first term, whether it was, appearing to sort of shove aside other world leaders at NATO, making, these sort of statements as to, well, why does the U.S. need the rest of the world, or is the U.S. being cheated out of, having other countries pay more or pay less than their fair share of defense spending when it comes to NATO, that sort of thing. There's always been this sort of anti-global institution sort of bent in many ways to Donald Trump, and in a lot of ways this predates Donald Trump even. I think particularly on the right, conservatives have long been suspicious of the UN, right? Have long, I grew up in Texas. I grew up remembering in post 9/11 world where basically the rest of the world was saying, the US should not unilaterally go to war in Iraq. And I remember very specifically, conservatives saying, well, we shouldn't let the UN tell us what to do. We shouldn't let the world tell us what to do. We are the US. We can do what we want. Right. So like when I hear these words, it really just reflects this sort of almost rogue nation, not even rogue nation, but just that we don't need the rest of y'all sort of ethos, I think, that is a strain within particularly conservatives. It's not that the UN is without criticism, of course. It's pointing out the elephant in the room, that there are these treaties, there are these pronouncements, there are these votes, right? It's very soft power that the UN cannot, there is not necessarily force all the time behind what it does, but in a world where sort of democracy in general is in retreat, to say, to go to the UN and say, we're doing good on our, what are you for? Is real par for the course for the golfer in chief, I suppose.
There are 2 or 3 questions that come to mind immediately, just given that one comment. Let me rush through them. Well, not rush through them. We got an hour. But let me push through them, and then we'll get to this Washington Post thing, I promise. But as you just described it and laid it out, I think quite eloquently and quite brilliantly, Karen, what is this sort of political nativism, if you will? What's the long-term impact of that? Us turning inward, Donald Trump, of course, the administration, turning inward and lashing outward. What's the long-term impact of that, you think?
It's hard to separate this sort of rhetoric, right? Why do we need the UN? Why do we need to participate with even just, economically? And I think that's a great term, political nativism, this sort of nationalism, America first, that's right? Even look at the tariff situation that sent markets into a tailspin. The economic reality of the US and of the world is, hey, Americans, we can't get our cool laptops and our phones and our cheap clothes without relying on, say, manufacturing in China, in Vietnam, in these countries that actually help our economy that depend so much on consumption or GDP, we are inextricably linked to the rest of the world. The pandemic should have shown us that.
Yeah.
Should have taught us that lesson. And it appears in a lot of ways, and this is actually something I teach in my class on race, media, and international affairs, that actually quite frequently following, pandemics, you do see this sort of nativism. You do see this sort of inward looking, railing against immigration, railing against participating in global development and foreign aid, right? Retreating from USAID and providing long-term saving care for needy people around the world. It is not just America first, but almost an America alone, which is a dangerous myth, because this is not where American power solely rests.
Yeah. You said, secondly, I said there are 2 or 3 things that are running through my head at the same time. The second was this phrase you used, democracy in retreat. I use political nativism. You like that. I like yours. Democracy in retreat. So it's a mutual admiration society here for a second. So as you, the minute that term, that phrase came out of your mouth, I thought about the fact that I think you're right. No question that our democracy, or as I call it, this experiment in democracy, I often say that we have a Madisonian framework for democracy. We've not quite achieved that yet. So I prefer to call it an experiment in democracy, but I take your point. We agree that we are a democracy in retreat, but my mind immediately went to the fact that yes, we are a democracy in retreat around the world, was your point, that democracy around the world is in retreat. But my point is that we may be leading that retreat. And if we're not leading it, we're certainly on the front lines of it. And so the irony of the leader of the quote unquote free world standing up inside the UN and delivering that kind of message is interesting to me. But what say you about the notion that if in fact democracy, to your point, is in retreat around the globe, and we do not disagree, we're playing a role in that in the Trump era?
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of folks, around the world who are like, I mean, again, there used to be, America used to, and to an extent, maybe still does, but go around the world and preach to other countries about democracy, about rule of law, about anti-corruption, about, these sort of values. And this was part of the quote unquote soft power of America, right? And now, seeing all of this, they're like, why should we listen to you guys?
Exactly.
Like, why do you need to, right? Even just if it's not yesterday, another headline that was in the news is basically, 3 African heads of state saying we're pulling out of the ICC because this does not serve us, right? And I look at not just sort of democracy in retreat or America kind of backtracking from the image or persona that it had on the world stage for such a long time, or at least pretended it had or tried to play. But a retreat from other nations saying, well, what's in it for us to cooperate? Even to cooperate with the United States, again, as, the imposition of sort of almost vindictive tariffs. I think Americans have long liked to believe that our power is absolute and that is forever. It's only as good as the world trusts that our word is what it is. That loss of trust, I don't think we're prepared for a world where other countries say, hey, we don't have to play ball with y'all either. Right.
If you missed our conversation yesterday with Professor Richard Wolff, I highly encourage you to go listen to the podcast. We had an hour conversation that was rich as cream yesterday, talking about America in decline. This whole notion of American exceptionalism is a joke. Our democracy is fragile. We are on the precipice of failing. Every empire in the history of the world has at some point had a reckoning, and we are in that era. Professor Wolff argued yesterday. If you missed that conversation with Professor Wolff yesterday, I encourage you to check out the podcast of that dialogue about America sort of in decline. And again, I'm struck by this notion that Karen raises of the world being in retreat from democracy. She's right about that. As I said, it was just months ago. I guess Kamala's book is out today. Kamala Harris's book drops today, I guess. And we recall her and everybody else in the Democratic Party months ago telling us that Donald Trump was an existential threat to this democracy. So if the world, in fact, is in retreat from democracy, we are a part of that, as I said, at least on the front line, doing some damage. Which leads me to ask, I'm working my way to the domestic issue, which is being fired by the Washington Post. But since Trump is speaking today or spoke today at the UN, I want to just do one or two more things on the global front. Then we'll spend the rest of the time with Karen Atia wrestling with this piece that she wrote about being fired by the Post, but not going to be silenced. You've done a lot of writing. I've read your stuff for a while. You've done a lot of writing about global justice, and on a day like today, where we see Trump at the UN, other world leaders speaking, and there, of course, will be response to what he had to say. In a moment like this, how do you, Karen, define that term, global justice? Is there meaning there? Is there heft there? Is there what do we think of that we use that term? In a moment like this, how do you define? How does that phrase strike you? Global justice.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, always in my work and even in my bios, you'll see, at least for me personally, my outlook, I describe myself as an internationalist. First and foremost, I have always, even though I grew up in the U.S., my roots are in West Africa. I've lived and worked and studied around the globe. I've always seen our world as more connected than it is separate. Different cultures, different histories. Yes. But when it comes to this world, and I guess very specifically about empire, when I think about the U.S. and Europe, the quote unquote West, so to speak, or the U.S. being an inheritor of British and European empire, realizing that there's more that sort of connects the empire havers versus the ones who were colonized by said empire, right? And wrestling with those legacies. So in a lot of ways, I think for me, when I think about global justice, it's about trying to, in many ways, reverse the harms of empire, reverse and address the long-standing damage from colonization, the long-standing damage from sort of global capitalist systems that degrade the environment, that degrade democracies, again, that degrade people's abilities for, ultimately, it's about self-determination, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I think about, is that this kind of supposedly global value or aspiration for people to be able to determine their own destinies, and to be free regardless of who they are, where they come from, and all that. Obviously, competition, human anxiety, the desire for power, the desire for money gets in the way of these ideals. But that's how I see global justice. And I think we've seen in all the major movements, whether it's the civil rights movements, whether it's the anti-colonial movements in Africa, the anti-apartheid movement, now the movements on Palestine and Israel, they've always been international, always, which is why internationalist leaders have often paid the biggest price for making these sort of connections against empire, right? And against oppression. So that's just, how I tend to see these things.
Yep. One final question on this. I got 2 minutes to go, and then when we come forward for the rest of the hour, we'll get to the Washington Post piece. You define yourself as an internationalist, but you are a Black woman born and raised in Texas. And again, you lived around the globe. And I think you'll take the point here. It's a question specifically about African Americans, about Black folk right now. In this moment, you see yourself as an internationalist. How should we see ourselves as Black people in the diaspora? How do we engage? How do we see ourselves? What's our role in a moment like this? You got 2 minutes to wrestle with that for me. Yeah.
I know you're giving me 2 minutes when I need like 200 pages and an editor and a PhD. This is where I wish that white supremacy wasn't so freaking effective in dividing the diasporas, the Black diaspora. If anything, I identify myself very, very much with thinking about the Black world. And I think particularly for Black Americans, we live in the most powerful country in the world. Like Black Americans sort of struggles, like Black Americans, sort of the ups and downs of Black America, like sort of so go America and the rest of the world, right? I mean, this is Black American culture especially has been the driver of culture, the driver of tech, the driver has built this country, has built entire tech companies, honestly, off the backs of Black culture, Black rhetoric, AAVV, Black expression. And yet we're sitting now in a time where Black people are being purged from government, from business, right? And I think it demands a hard look at the gains of Black Americans being erased is a precursor, I think, to the decline of America. I'll say that with my full chest.
No, I felt it with your full chest. So there you have it. Donald Trump spoke today at the UN. I wanted to start this first half hour with Karen Attiah talking about these global issues. I think we've done a decent job of that in the time that we have. When we come forward, though, the primary reason I invited her on is to unpack this piece that she wrote, her Substack piece. It's titled, "The Washington Post Fired Me, but my voice will not be silenced. I spoke out against hatred and violence in America, and it cost me my job." Karen will unpack that for us when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Representative Maxine Waters is urging the UN to investigate immigration raids in LA, calling them ethnic cleansing.
We're here because rights are not abstractions. They are promises that must be upheld in the places people live and work.
Joined by civil rights activist Dolores Huerta and attorney Luis Carrillo, she says Trump is trampling the Constitution. Alex O'Keefe, a Black writer for hit FX show The Bear, was handcuffed on a Connecticut train after a white passenger complained about his posture. Police say he delayed service and was cited for disorderly conduct. The video has sparked outrage and calls for accountability. And Sha'Carri Richardson stars in Kim Kardashian's new Skims and Nike campaign. Nike and Skims say they're focused on empowering women through performance and style. The athletic collection also includes Serena Williams. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers play their final 6 games of the regular season on the road beginning tonight at Arizona. Any combination of 3 wins for the Dodgers or 3 losses by San Diego gives the Dodgers their 12th NL West title in 13 seasons. Chargers running back Najee Harris, signed in the offseason as a free agent, will miss the rest of the season with a torn Achilles tendon. Harris suffered a non-contact injury in the second quarter of Sunday's win over Denver. After week 3, Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert leads the NFL in passing yardage with 860. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua leads the NFL with 333 receiving yards. Alumni around the country from HBCU Howard University will be in a good mood this week. Howard's football team snapped an 8-game losing streak to Hampton with a 34-7 win Saturday in the Battle of the Real HU. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the voice of reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Karen Atia, who I'm honored to have on this program, award-winning former Washington Post columnist. As I mentioned earlier, she, while at the Post, was the founding editor of the Global Opinion section, as you can tell from her eloquence and her brilliance in the first half of our conversation. Now, let's spend the rest of the time talking about what happened at the Washington Post. Again, the piece is called "The Washington Post Fired Me, but my voice will not be silenced. I spoke out against hatred and violence in America, and it cost me my job." Take me inside this piece, Karen. I'm going to follow you.
Yeah, so I, as you told your listeners, I am a columnist for the Post. I've also been an editor. So the majority of my time at the Post, I've been an editor and dedicated to giving others a platform to express themselves, even people who I disagree with, right? So I started as a columnist focusing on race, gender, and international affairs back in 2021. So literally, I was paid to give opinions on these topics, right? Mm-hmm. And opinions that I gained awards for, recognition for, all of that. So fast forward to September 10th, and this is the horrific murder of Charlie Kirk, right? I mean, I saw the images come across social media, which were horrible. And I'd known a bit who Charlie Kirk was as a far right sort of activist, provocateur, Mm-hmm. At the same time, I was also registering that almost literally at the same time, there was news coming out of Colorado that there was a school shooting there. Mm-hmm. Yet again, another school shooting, right? And so for me, I was just processing that, gosh, again, America and guns, America and guns, America and guns. But yes, Charlie Kirk was shocking just because of his public stature, yeah. So I did what I'm trained to do, which is, especially in breaking news moments where there's a lot of conflicting information, people are speculating, people are emotional, people are saying all sorts of things. My sort of instinct and my job really is to exercise caution and restraint. So for me, the first things that came to my mind, taking into account both Utah and Colorado, was America has this violence problem, has a political violence problem, and there's so much, kind of these what I think are a bit empty cliches about thoughts and prayers. This is not who we are. Political violence has no place here, yada, yada, yada. Those are all cliches because the reality is political violence should have no place here. And I truly believe that it should not have no place in a functioning society that is healthy. But the fact is, political violence has shaped this country, has been a part of the fabric. It has been the stained thread in the fabric, the tapestry of America.
Yes.
I grew up in Dallas, Texas, which is the site of the Kennedy assassination. That still looms over my hometown, right? So it's almost like I grew up with that in the air, even decades after this assassination. So for me, that was in my mind. That was my frame of mind about America more generally, while waiting for facts to come out about what had happened to Kirk. So I made comments on Blue Sky, just about political violence should have no place here. And yet America has done nothing to curb guns, has done nothing to curb this. And this is just this cycle, this learned helplessness. I referenced the Minnesota assassinations of Melissa Hortman, her husband, her dog, and how that happened. And it was shocking for a bit. And then America, what I quote said, shrugged and moved on. And that shooter in the Minnesota situation was a white man, right? And specifically thinking about that, I was thinking about the statistics that we have from the FBI, the statistics that we, well, at least had from DOJ, from the National Institutes of Health, on how statistics show that the majority, if not the majority of shooters, of mass shooters, and political right-wing violence is white men.
No question.
Those are just the facts. And I said in my quote, part of what keeps America so violent is normalizing, sort of coddling, performing care for, performing absolution for white men who espouse violence. And that was in relation, for me, right under the thread where I was talking about Melissa Hortman's, the suspect in the Melissa Hortman assassination, being a white man, excuse me. I went about my days, someone responded that I wasn't doing enough to give Kirk enough sort of space and deference almost. Again, I was commenting very generally about America's patterns of violence, and I was commenting very generally about our rhetoric in response to this violence, which keeps us in this loop. And I responded just saying, I'm not going to perform empty, like over the top. Specifically, the quote was, I'm not going to tear my clothes and smear ashes on my face in performative mourning for a white man that espoused violence. And this was someone who put academics on watch lists and put them in danger. This was someone who advocated for using lethal force on migrants at the border. This was someone who held deeply anti-Black views and deeply anti-Black women views in particular. Yeah. So for me, not just, as a Black woman, as someone who cares about justice, but even as a journalist, the smart thing to do when you have such a divisive figure like that is not to perform extreme emotion really on any side, like either side. I'm not going to celebrate his death. I absolutely didn't. In fact, in my post, I was like, I'm scared for this nation.
Yeah.
In the aftermath of this, I'm also not going to sort of, pretend like he was a personal hero of mine, at least, because that just would not be true. So what I was doing, in my opinion, was just being as objective and as balanced as possible. Of course, I cared about what happened because I knew this was going to be a lightning rod for America, right? And so I went about my day,
Yeah.
Tavis.
Yeah.
No backlash. No, I've been in some spicy moments. If we were to rank the spiciness of this social media thing, this is definitely on the bland side. This is on the sort of washed chicken side. This is not one of my seasoned super spicy takes. So I went on about my day.
Right.
And maybe 12 hours later, the next day on September 11th, I see a missed call from a Washington Post number. And I couldn't pick it up. And then maybe 2 minutes later, I see an email come across and the subject line was notice of termination. And that was from the Washington Post, the head of HR, actually. So not even my bosses. No conversation, no calls. The top of the email said that my posts were quote unquote gross misconduct, that I was harming the integrity of the Washington Post. Not only that, they claimed that I was putting the physical safety of my colleagues in danger because of these posts. And I know there was a lot of speculation that it was because the only direct reference I had to Kirk himself was referencing a quote that was going around on the internet about, what he said about Black women and brain processing power. I'd seen that quote in The Nation, and it was making the rounds, and it's since been amended to say he was only specifically talking about those Black women, as if that makes it better. But again, in the official letter from the Washington Post, that was not mentioned. What was my crime, according to the Post, was that I mentioned white men. That's what they said was a violation. They claimed that I was disparaging on the basis of race and gender and protected characteristics. And I was stunned for a multitude of reasons, not just that I never even got a call. After 11 years, after just doing my job and actually exercising a whole lot of that, not even that I was having to hold myself back from saying what I want to say. I just was somber about what had happened to Charlie Kirk and what it was going to mean. And I was right.
I did not want to interrupt. I wanted to give Karen all that time to lay out the backstory of what happened. In the moments I have left, I do want to interrogate that backstory. You're listening to Karen Atia, former Washington Post columnist on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number and put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
He does indeed, the Karen Atia. I wanted to give her all the space she needed. I wanted you to hear from her. We've all been reading about this. It's been all in the media. It's been national, for that matter, international news. I'm honored that she gave us an hour of her time. And I wanted to, again, to not interrupt so you could hear that directly from her. Now my time is getting really tight. I want to ask just a few questions before I lose her at the top of the hour. So let's tighten this up, Karen, if we can. And I want to start with a question from one of our listeners. It's a good question, I think. What does Karen make of the fact that Jimmy Kimmel, who is back tonight, at least in part, you probably saw the news, they announced he's back, and then Sinclair and Nexstar got involved and said he ain't back on our stations. And so like almost 20% of the nation will not be seeing Jimmy Kimmel tonight because they're still boycotting him, but he's back, broadly speaking. But here's the question. What does Karen make of the fact that Jimmy Kimmel got to have a lot of conversations with his bosses, but that the Washington Post never gave her even that opportunity? Karen?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. Jimmy Kimmel got to have all sorts of conversations with his bosses.
Yeah.
Got to have all sorts of media sort of blitzing on his case.
Yeah.
Whereas I saw a lot of sort of hemming and hawing about me.
Mm-hmm.
Did she deserve it? Well, what was her performance like? Well, what, but overlooking, anyone could Google, you don't last at a place like the Washington Post for 11 years without, practicing some, I'm good at my job, Tavis. I would say I know I'm good at my job and at what I do.
I was laughing. We were laughing in that break, not at your plight, but laughing about the fact that if I got fired every time I said white men, I would have been fired like 7 times yesterday in the first hour of the show. if I using the phrase white men. So no laughing matter here, but how do you process that became their rationale, that it was your invoking of the term, the phrase white men, that got you fired?
I want to be very, very clear and specific. And this is why I left my Blue Sky post up. I did not delete anything because I did not say all white men.
Right. I
was very specific about violent white men.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe all white men are violent. Of course not.
Sure.
I do not even believe that. I believe some are. I have to believe that because of the statistics coming out of the FBI, coming out of researchers, coming out of long-standing patterns that some are, and those some commit a disproportionate amount of political violence. So I was again fired for doing my job. The Washington Post claims that it was disparaging. I was stating absolute facts. That was descriptive, not disparagement. And so for me, it's beyond just my job. I already know this has chilling implications for the journalists that remain at the Washington Post, whose job it is to look at America and America's patterns. There's chilling implications for opinion journalists, not just at the Post, but around the country about who are we allowed to talk about. It's such a dangerous precedent for, especially when, you'd argue we have explicit kind of white supremacy rising in this country.
No, I want to close our conversation on that note. I want to give you these last 5 minutes we have coming forward to talk about that, the precedent that this sets and the implications from that precedent. The last 5 minutes belong to Karen Atia when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like free.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project.
Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail, and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
I got 5.5 minutes, Karen. I'm going to give as much of that as I can to you. Talk to me then, since you went there, I'm following you, about the precedent you think this does, in fact, set, what the implications of this will be, particularly in a moment like this.
Yeah. You know, Tavis, it's not lost on me, right, that in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting, in the aftermath of just all of this, and obviously this is affecting me on a personal and professional level, you know, being punished for describing white male violence, white male political violence, that the DOJ scrubbed reports.
That's right.
About right-wing violence, that the right-wing violence is by far the majority of political violence, political extremism in this country. So taking those two together, you're seeing almost in real time a scrubbing, dare I say, a shrugging away, sweeping under the carpet, which is precisely what I warned about actually in my Blue Sky post, right? Yeah. So beyond just the sort of satisfaction hashtag I was right, there's a dark implication for researchers, for educators, for other journalists who cover extremism, who cover violence. If the precedent that is being set is that we are not allowed to talk about and describe where the violence is coming from, how do we even expect to even begin to solve it?
I get it. Let me ask you whether or not you've thought about what the post did to you in the broader context. Come on, Tavis, say context. The broader context of the hell that Black women writ large are catching right now in this country.
Sure. You know, I definitely. I was telling Joy Reid this. I was like, what do we call our sorority of like canceled Black female journalists? What are our colors? Like, what's our stroll gonna be?
I love the sense of humor, Karen. I love the sense of humor.
Yeah, I got to laugh, or else I would be in bed crying, looking at the ceiling, and not being, because you know, Joy Reid, Tiffany Cross, Melissa Harris Perry. These are all women that I, from my perch as a columnist, I wrote about in defense. You know, Nicole Hannah-Jones and being challenged over 1619. And I did what I could with my power at the Washington Post to write in defense, not only of those women, but that these were warning signs for the rest of America. Because when they come for Black women, it's not only Black women. It's not only Black people. They come for everyone else. So I never would have thought that I would now be a part of this sort of tragic Black female journalist sorority, finding ourselves sort of pushed out, challenged. So it's a new world for me. But I say it again: if y'all think that they're going to stop at us, they never do.
What's next for Karen Attiah?
Well, right now you guys can find me on Substack. My Substack is called The Golden Hour. That's probably the best way. That's where I'm posting a lot of the updates, even about my case and about, you know, what there's more. Stay tuned, more to come, more ways that we will work out. And, I haven't let this issue go with the posts. And because I had a class that was also canceled by Columbia, a race and media class, I am teaching that on my own. So I'm also a rogue radical professor as well. So I will be teaching race, media, and international affairs come October 6th. You can sign up on resistancesummerschool.com. So I'll be teaching for 7 weeks on the intersection of race, media, how mass media actually developed with race relations in many ways. And basically I teach my class, when we're watching the news, how did we get here? Yeah. Learning a bit of that history of this country and race and media, from newspapers to social media that we have now, helps to answer that question. So folks can sign up, they can contribute towards scholarships. So I will be teaching in a few weeks.
I want to say 2 things, Karen, right quick before I lose you. Not that you need to hear this from me, but I want to say it for the audience to hear. Number one, you are prodigiously talented. You don't need me to tell you that. As one who's read your work for years, your talent is monumental. And I don't believe that that you keep that kind of talent down. Cream always rises to the top. And I know that we'll be hearing your name and reading your work in the months and years to come. And I close on this note. I don't believe in platitudes, but I do believe in what Dr. King had to say many, many years ago, that unearned suffering is redemptive. I believe that. I've seen it in my own life, that unearned suffering is redemptive. And so I expect the resurrection. And I expect to continue reading your work and your witness. And I do mean that sincerely. It is a work and a witness. I am honored that you gave us an hour of your time to talk about this, and wish you nothing but the best. And if I can ever help you, you know where I am.
Oh gosh, Tavis, you're going to make me cry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I mean all of that. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself. More Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Representative Maxine Waters is urging the UN to investigate immigration raids in LA, calling them ethnic cleansing.
We're here because rights are not abstractions. They are promises that must be upheld in the places people live and work.
Joined by civil